By now, you've probably seen the cover. Caitlyn Clark, Indiana Fever's rookie phenom and college basketball's all-time leading scorer, graced Time magazine as the 2024 Athlete of the Year. Clutching a basketball in her hands, that signature quiet fire in her eyes, Clark stood alone, center stage, front and center, for the whole sports world to see. For many, it was a moment of celebration, a defining cultural snapshot of a year where women's basketball reached unprecedented heights, thanks in large part to Clark's electrifying performances and magnetic presence. But not everyone saw it as a moment of unity. In an interview with CNN Sports on December 13th, Washington Mystics co-owner Sheila Johnson made waves of her own, just not the kind fans were expecting.
It has taken the WNBA almost 28 years to get to the point where we are now. And this year, something clicked with the WNBA, and it's because of the draft of the players that came in. It's just not Caitlyn Clark, it's Reese. We have so much talent out there.
It was the kind of comment that hit the timeline like a jolt. Just as the sport seemed to be coming together in the wake of Clark's impact, Johnson's words stirred a different kind of reaction, one filled with frustration, disappointment, and for many, confusion. Her core message wasn't entirely controversial. She wanted to highlight the depth of talent in the WNBA, especially among players of color who've long battled for mainstream recognition. That resonated with a lot of people. It's a conversation the league, the media, and fans should be having. But it was the timing and the framing that caught fire. Because while Clark was being honored for a truly historic year, breaking viewership records, rewriting the NCAA history books, becoming the face of a rising WNBA, Johnson's critique landed as a rebuke, not of the system, but of the moment. A moment that, to many, felt earned. But where did it all start from? Yes, it began with this year's WNBA draft ratings. They were sliced in half compared to last year. ESPN aired it, and they're the ones who released the press statement. But here's the strange part. Just like they did with the women's NCAA tournament this year, ESPN made a curious omission. The 2024 numbers? Gone. Like poof. Vanished. Nowhere in sight. You'd think that with all the buzz around Caitlyn Clark and the supposed growth of women's basketball, those numbers would be front and center. But nope, they're buried, omitted like they never happened. So naturally, that gets people talking. Because let's be real, there's one person in this whole WNBA equation that moves the needle, and that's Caitlyn Clark. Whether she's wearing an Iowa jersey or an Indiana Fever one, when she plays, people watch. And now, enter ESPN host Elle Duncan. Now, if you've been following the ongoing conversation around Clark's early WNBA career, the fouls, the bruises, the bumps, the so-called welcome to the league treatment, Elle's been right in the middle of it. She's one of the voices saying that what Clark's experiencing, it's just part of the game. That the criticism Clark gets is being blown out of proportion. That instead of focusing on how she's being treated, we should be highlighting the league's competitiveness. All right, that's fair, in theory. But let's unpack that. LA's stance isn't just, this is a physical league. It's more like, stop focusing so much on Caitlyn. Every player deserves the spotlight. And to an extent, that's true. These women are all professionals, competitors driven to win. But when Caitlyn Clark gets clobbered on the court and fans call it out, Elle, and voices like her, say that's the problem. Not the hits, not the elbows, not the cheap fouls. The real issue, they say, is the reaction, the outcry, the fans. Come on. At what point does calling out something obvious become a crime? We've seen it. We're watching the games. Caitlyn's getting targeted, and not just by defenders on a screen, by a whole ecosystem that doesn't quite know how to handle her presence. And that brings us back to the numbers. Let's rewind to April 2024. The basketball world was buzzing. Caitlyn Clark, fresh off a legendary college career, was about to be drafted into the WNBA. Fans tuned in from all over the country, whether they were lifelong followers of the league or brand new eyes curious about the phenom from Iowa. That night, the WNBA draft pulled in staggering numbers, an average of 2.45 million viewers, with the broadcast peaking at over 3 million. It wasn't just a sports event, it was a cultural moment. Fast forward 1 year later to the 2025 WNBA draft. The talent was there, big names, promising stars, but something was different. The energy wasn't the same, and neither were the numbers. This time around, the draft averaged 1.25 million viewers, with a peak of 1.46 million. Solid, yes, but nearly half of what we saw during Clark's debut moment. The contrast was stark. One year, the world stopped to watch. The next, it just didn't. The numbers tell a story all their own, of influence, anticipation, and the undeniable pull of a generational star. That's not just a dip, that's a nosedive. And yet ESPN decided to frame the ratings without even mentioning the record-setting 2024 draft. They framed the comparison using 2023 instead. Why? According to Elle Duncan, it's because 2024 was anomalous. Her words. Let that sink in. The highest-rated WNBA draft in history gets labeled an anomaly and dismissed from the growth narrative. And their logic? Well, since Clark won't be drafted again, she's an outlier. So to track actual growth, you compare 2025 to 2023, not 2024. That sound you hear? That's a million eyebrows raising all at once. What that logic does is discount Clark's impact. It erases her contribution to the league's popularity like it was a fluke. And Clark's fans, bless them, didn't let that slide. They called it what it was, spin. Because here's the thing, growth is what happened in 2024. That explosion in viewership was real. Whether it's sustainable is another conversation. But pretending it didn't happen, that's not analysis, that's narrative building. And fans saw right through it. Why not show both years? One commenter asked. Why not recognize both accomplishments? Simple question, no spin, just transparency. But instead, we get explanations that feel more like cover-ups than clarity. One user even joked, some people should use a glue stick instead of chapstick, glue their mouths shut. Brutal. But the sentiment's clear. Fans are tired of being gaslit. People are still watching because of Caitlyn Clark. The Clark effect is still alive, still real. And the attempt to downplay it? It's not going unnoticed. Let's be honest, this kind of media gymnastics, discounting Clark's impact as anomalous, trying to redirect the focus away from her, isn't about fairness. It's about control. It's about who gets to define the story, who gets to lead the narrative. And in this case, ESPN seems determined to avoid putting Clark on the pedestal that the numbers say she already earned. But when your entire audience sees one player bringing millions of eyeballs to a sport and you pretend like it didn't happen, people stop trusting what you're saying. One fan put it perfectly. If 3 million extra viewers in 2024 wasn't real growth, what was? It's a valid question, because according to ESPN's logic, anything extraordinary doesn't count. Well, if that's the case, should we wipe out Michael Jordan's best seasons too? Because those weren't average, right? Should we throw out Steph Curry's 2016 MVP year? Should we pretend Diana Taurasi's draft wasn't legendary because she didn't replicate it? That's the slippery slope. And what makes it worse is the undercurrent of resentment. You can feel it. Players sounding off in interviews, subtle digs on social media, and then commentators backing them up. Clark walks onto the court, and she's not just playing basketball, she's swimming upstream through a current of animosity. Let's not pretend we can't see what's happening. The hits, the stares, the welcome to the W message. Sometimes it's not just competition. Sometimes it is jealousy. And the more the media tries to say it isn't, the more obvious it becomes. At the end of the day, ESPN is choosing a side. And it's not the one backed by 3 million viewers. It's not the one that put women's basketball on the map in a way we haven't seen before. It's the side that says, let's keep things the way they were, safe, familiar, under control. But Caitlyn Clark changed that. And no amount of PR spin, cherry-picked comparisons, or anomaly talk is going to put the genie back in the bottle. Because once people see the truth, they don't unsee it. And until next time, folks, peace them out.